Hello, I'm your host, Joshua Jenkins, and welcome to SPOTcast. I'm joined by my guests, Leo.
Hey.
Andy.
What's up?
And Isaac.
Hey.
An offensive Facebook group made up of current and former Border Patrol agents was recently discovered. They were found making jokes about the death of migrant workers, suggesting someone throw a burrito at Latina congresswoman who was visiting a migrant holding facility, and sexual jokes referring to female representatives. So this brings us to the question of how much freedom of speech should a government official be able to exercise. This is SPOTcast. Are you guys aware of this issue?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, only recently.
As a minority, how does this affect you or change your perspective on Border Patrol agents?
Well, I think that most minorities are usually nervous around some sort of police officer or border patrol agent. And when stories like this come out, that just increases tensions and makes people more nervous, and that's what we don't want for people who are supposed to keep us safe.
Coming from a migrant family, with my family, Border Patrol, and that whole idea has always been pretty rocky. So the fact that this information has been gone out, it's actually starting to increase the tensions, especially since what Trump has been saying, but with ICE and all the raids, it's just starting to just increasingly just ruin everything more, especially within my family.
I had to deal with the Border Patrol agents before, and just learning about this news, how they were making fun of immigrants that died, it just makes me scared to not interact with them.
So if you had to punish them, what would you deem reasonable?
I think it depends on what the specific person said. If they weren't really part of it, if they were just kind of going along with it just to fit in, then I would just tell them just have a serious talk with them, treat them like adults. But if they were a person who was calling these people floaters and treating them as if they weren't human, then yeah, I think they might have to be fired.
It's possible that not every agent that's been in that group has used it. Maybe they're just invited, but definitely people like admins or the creators should definitely be punished by being fired.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think jobs such as Border Patrol, cops, and etc., do you think those attract more racist people?
I think it has more of a tendency to attract racist people than, let's say, someone who just works at a factory or an office, right? Because when you're given a position like Border Patrol or a police officer, you definitely have more power. And if people are looking for a way to express their hate on the people that they hate, it gives them the power and the ability to very easily.
I think it does, especially for people that are very hateful, for maybe, bigotry, or just they were just taught that way. It gives them the authority to be able to deal with these people, the people that they deal with every single day. It gives them the authority to just do what they want, Some people, they do what they're told. They do as how the protocol is at the Border Patrol, However, some people just kind of take it as a game, Oh, it's just, Mexicans versus Americans. They just play it as a game.
I think they definitely take advantage of the situation. They're given the position of power, and they could probably, a racist would probably go into Border Patrol to legally use their power to abuse the immigrants.
I think it's important when we talk about issues like this to always remember that not everybody is like that, or else we're also going to be the ones giving out hate.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think that the issue with the Border Patrol and immigrants is similar to police with African Americans?
I think, yeah, because, again, we're seeing the pattern of abusement of power and dehumanization of people and racial profiling, right? And treating it as a joke.
Yeah, same thing, especially with African Americans being pulled over when they're in a car. They don't know whether they're going to be able to live and see the next day, For immigrants, and specifically for me as being all Mexican, I don't know whether, ICE is going to come down to my door and just make some assumptions saying, oh, there's illegals here, can we enter, and then just start making a ruckus,
It's definitely similar. police officers definitely have to deal with more people. It's not just minorities. They do deal with like other people. Border Patrol agents do deal with mostly minorities because that's the field they work in. But it is similar, especially with the feeling of power, like we talked about before.
Should your ideologies prevent you from working in a specific field?
No, I don't think it should, because that's what America's about, innocent until proven guilty, equality, right? But once you act on an ideology that can be deemed racist or offensive, like, that's when there should be a cutoff. That's when you should be fired, or other disciplinary measures should be taken, right? I think you're allowed to have whatever ideology you want, but when you act on it and commit a crime, obviously that's the limit.
Yeah, I agree with what Leo's saying, I feel like depending on your ideology, let's say, I don't know, communism, some people are like dumb enough to be like, oh yeah, communism still exists. I mean, it does, obviously, but I feel like here in the United States, I don't think it does, for what correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it does so far. But if you don't act on those ideologies, and if you don't like do it to the point where it affects your your work environment, your professional work environment, then I think you should be fine. But you just can't just like just go into your work and just start saying, oh yeah, I hate Mexicans and every Latino and every foreigner that ever exists, or just going, oh yeah, I'm a commie.
Especially when it comes to Border Patrol, if they have racist ideologies against the immigrants that they deal with, that's fine. They can believe what they want. I personally don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't stop them from having a job, because whether they're racist or not, they still put in the work to get to that position. So I think we should let them have it, but once they act on it, that's it.
Yeah, like Andy said, as long as it doesn't affect your work, then you are allowed to have those opinions. There is no way of knowing people's actually ideologies.
Exactly.
Like on their resume, they don't type in
Yeah.
racist.
Yeah.
So unless it starts to affect their work, they should be allowed to work.
What if somebody has a history of being racist and they go into a field such as being a cop or a Border Patrol agent? Couldn't we fairly assume that their actions might be influenced by their racial beliefs?
It depends on if they acted on it in the past or not, right? If we saw them commit any sort of crime related to race, then obviously not. Like, even if it wasn't a race-related crime, we wouldn't have a criminal working as a cop, right?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So if I'm saying that if somebody has a history of being racist and they go into the field such as Border Patrol or cop, couldn't we fairly assume that their actions potentially could be influenced by their racial beliefs?
Honestly, I would say yeah, but you just have to just keep an eye out on them, but you don't want to be like some kind of spy, just always keeping their eye on them, because
you still have to treat them like you would treat anybody else, or else
treat
that's
them
unfair
normally.
to them, right?
Yeah.
Definitely discriminating against like someone that could be a racist. The fact that it might just be a rumor, it might be like a falsehood, so you should definitely treat him like anybody else until they act on their racism.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll do it for this episode of SPOTcast. I'd like to thank my guests Leo,
Thanks.
Andy,
Thank you.
and Isaac
Thank you.
for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. For Spot 177, I'm Joshua Jenkins.